Hello, welcome to today's video. We're going to continue talking about designing an effective data warehouse through data marts, with this example being a sequenced event fact table. And we'll be talking about this within our Daisy Hill puppies. Now, a sequenced event table will look at events across the fact world in order to present them in a chronological order so that you can do some sequencing and data analysis before and after, things like that. I have some previous videos that I would recommend you take a look at if you are developing your data stores within Alteryx. And these three videos I've used in the past talk about how to create a hierarchy or a sequence of events using iterative macros within Alteryx so that you can very easily line up these events coming from multiple sources. When I did these videos, I did not discuss how to design the structure to store these. I simply was focused on getting the data put together and going forward. Much as in your life cycle of doing data analysis, it's get the job done first and worry about what you designed later. So let's look at that later right now. So here's what happens is that typically a lot of the sequencing has to do with marketing, of trying to determine who to market what products to which consumers, and so they want to dissect the customer patterns. In this case, they are the puppy's owners. What they want to do is be able to see across the life cycle of the engagement with the puppy's owners what different services or events are the puppies involved in, and therefore from that they can determine a pattern as to when puppies come to training, when puppies do performances, and then offer these services to them. And so what I also want to talk about in this is how to leverage your existing facts in a well-designed federated data warehouse. And so I've taken some license in this presentation to clean up some of my facts in order to make them more commonly defined and utilizing federated dimensions. But so let's take a look at the facts that we want to do. So we want to look at events, and in looking at events, what we'll do is we will scan through our list of tables, and this is being in my SQL DBM model. You can see here that I have a number of tables available to me. These are the ones we've developed over time, and in a good robust data model. As we scan through this, we always get to have fun. Here's where we want to go. It's always fun in a tool that you, even though you use it regularly, you know that it does things. You don't know exactly where they are. So in building my model and looking at a list of objects available to me to put in my model, I want to go into the Diagram Explorer because I'll be using this button here to add to the diagram to get it into my model for analysis. So when I scan through this, I want to look at the different fact tables that might have some kind of event associated with them. And first off, let's take a look at the puppy fact table. That's a basic one here. And you see that what I have in the puppy fact table is the birth date as a dimension. So I can go into the puppy fact table, get the puppy's ID as well as the birthday, and so birth being one of my events. Continuing through this, we have the puppy adoption fact. If a puppy gets adopted, this fact table contains that information. So in here, I have the puppy ID and his adoption date, so we know it's been adopted. Again, we're not concerned about the metrics. We're simply concerned about putting these events in sequence. Continuing down, we have the puppy costume invoice fact table. So we want to add that one here too. If the puppy has gone to our tailor and gotten some work done, nice to know that. We can send them coupons. They obviously go into a performance, so we have our performance fact. And then in one of my previous videos, we talked about the whole training scenario to where a puppy was trained by registering. So we have the registration fact. So the registration for training is an event. They then attended it. That's the attendance fact. So they attended the training, and then obviously we had to bill them. And we have the training payment fact. So this gives us a sequence of a series of events that we'll want to use to go ahead and populate our new fact table and possibly build some additional dimensions associated with this process. But being from a federated data warehouse, we have some common dimensions here that we'll be utilizing as well. We'll start our data mart design by bringing in the fact tables. And as we usually do in a data warehouse, date and time are very important, so we'll bring in our standard date dimension. If you notice, our fact tables that we're basing this off of also use the date dimension. So we can allow for a time seriesing of these as well. We want to bring in our time dimension. Obviously, some of our events will not have time associated with them. In that case, we can use the 0 entry in this table, which is the none, which also happens to be midnight. If you saw my previous video about the training, we talked about the puppy information not being federated within that data set, but we corrected that before we got ready to do this work. So now I can go ahead and bring in the puppy dimension because that's data in the training series of fact tables or the data mart based on that. So we can bring the puppy dimension in. And then finally, something that was missing that we added just for this is the event dimension, where we actually use the event names such as birth, training, attending, etc. We will make up those specific names, giving them a description, and then also doing a priority so that if they have the same date and or timestamp associated with them, then we know which one we want to show first in our sequence. Having done that, it's very easy using these. When we bring in a fact table and populate it, in this case we use the puppy event fact. As I search for where I hit it over here, oops, we see that we gave it a bad name. I've done this a few times. I need to correct this, and we will correct it now. So we have the puppy event fact table, keeping with my naming convention. That should be a capital P. We'll do it here so we can do it. As you can see, we only need these dimensions to populate this fact table. The puppy ID, we'll be giving it an event sequence, and those two together make a primary key because only one event occurs in that sequence. We'll be assigning this value within each of the events, so we control that. We want a couple of dimensions coming in. Go ahead and drop down that, put in order. So we have the date coming in for this event. We have the time, and then we have the actual event itself. So this way we can identify what specifically this event was. Then what you want to do is go ahead and see what metrics you would like to create to make the reporting easier. In this case, I decided to add these 4 metrics. It's typically what I use in an event series. It gives me the days from the previous event and the days to the next event. So this way we can see how long it took to occur and how long it stayed as the most current event. This can be then used for doing averages, summations, or other analytics. I like to add a few things to help out the actual reporting, which is the first event indicator, even though that happens to be supposedly a 1, we go ahead and create that indicator in here, and then the last event indicator, which will be a 1 if it's the last event and a 0 if it's not. This allows us not only to find the records fairly easily, but it also allows us to do some quick counting to find out specific events that were the origin or the terminator for the sequence of events. Becomes a very simple design to implement and model. Since we do have good fact tables to begin with, it was a lot of drag and drop. It was a lot of seeing what was there and then using the current dimensions and adding our event dimension itself, since we are dealing with events. Quite simple and short. Picture of the fact tables, picture of the data mart itself. And as a wrap up, it is easy to extend your design out if you're going to base them upon existing tables. From a development standpoint, if I was to build this fact table, I would be building it off of the existing fact tables and not with the specific data feeds themselves. If you need to do delta processing, we don't do delta processing within the Daisy Hill Puppy Farm dataset because it is very small, and so I do not have a problem with rebuilding it each time. But if you do have to delta processing, don't forget to add those insert and update timestamps, not just to your resultant event fact table, but all of the fact tables that go into building it. If you're doing this for the first time, you may need to get back to your data warehouse developers and DBA to add that to your other fact tables so that you can make it easier. As always, let me know what you think about this video. Subscribe so you can see my new videos when they come out. You can find me easier if you subscribed. Drop a comment if you have some additional information you would like or some additional subject areas you'd like me to analyze and explore with you. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.